Smith. I'm your host, Ryan Ruff. It's great to have you with us here. If you are joining us on the Facebook live stream, it's great to have you with us. Or if you're checking us out after the fact, whether it be on YouTube or a podcasting platform, all the same. Love to have you here with us today for another unique, complex financial discussion. Homer Smith, star of the show, he'll be joining me momentarily. But look, we always want to say thank you before we bring Homer on, and also, kind of give you the lay of the land as to what the topic of conversation is going to look like today. So, a lot of wealthy families out there that have assets in trusts. They want more than what they can get maybe from their typical professional or corporate trust companies. And in instances like these, and for these people, setting up their own private trust company could be a beneficial option for them. So we're going to tap into, Homer's knowledge on the topic. We're going to, learn a little bit about what these private trust companies look like and why they might be beneficial in certain instances, ways, shapes, or forms. So that being said, let's go ahead and bring Homer out to get today's conversation rolling. Homer, good to see you. How you doing?
I'm well, Ryan. Good to see you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So here we are, getting ready for yet another Advance Your Wealth. Always look forward to our conversations, Homer. And today we've got a really peculiar topic to dive into because I feel like we've kind of scratched the surface of this in different conversations, but we've never taken a deep dive into private trust companies specifically. So let's start with that high overview like we typically do. One of those more interesting ways that, you're seeing wealthy families address certain financial needs or concerns is through the use of a private trust company. But could you tell us more about just these different types of trust companies that exist today?
Yeah, and I think this is an important topic because in working with the clients I have over the years who have corporate trust relationships or individuals who are acting as trustee, there's definitely some frustrations and challenges that they've experienced along the way, whether it's communication, whether it's the management of the investments, transitions between trustees. So there's lots of things, and I know we'll cover those more later in the conversation. But really, in general, private trust companies, differentiators from those, are really set up to serve a single family versus serving multiple families, multiple trusts, and really focused on the estate planning, and especially if there's a private business, the business succession planning for that family. There can be aspects around investment management and wealth management as well, but it's really around that estate planning and business planning for that wealthy family.
Got it. So Homer, overall, what's the real appeal of going with a private trust company then instead of, say, a professional or a corporate trust company, or even just having a single individual maybe act as your family's trustee?
There's a number, I think, of advantages. I think one is, or one reason why they might want to consider it is if they have been frustrated with investment performance issues, and maybe it's not so much the performance of the funds itself, but it could simply be the communication around the decisions on the investment side. I think another one is a lot of these wealthy families have multiple trusts and potentially multiple trustees, multiple trust companies. And the private trust allows you to consolidate all of that and have better coordination across the decision making across all of your trusts. And I think another really important one is for corporate trust companies, and I've worked with a number of them and have had good relationships with them. But trustees change. People come and go from those companies, and so you might spend a year or two building a great relationship with your trustee that fully understands the family, and then that person retires or leaves to go to another company, and you've got to restart that relationship all over again. And so I think that consistency and permanence, where if you have your own board of directors that you select, that knows the family well, that's got different ages and experience involved, can really ensure that you have less of that having to replace and retell the story all over again.
Sure. No, completely understand that. I mean, it helps to just work with it, have that level of consistency with a given individual. So those are some of the main benefits, it sounds like, of a private trust company. But are there any other secondary or intangible benefits, additional reasons maybe to go this route, and, almost added bonuses, if you will, of working with the private trust company?
Yeah, I think there's a couple, but they kind of relate to those first few that we discussed. I think one is flexibility. So when you're able to choose who the board of directors are, and typically you're going to choose people that have been working with the family for a number of years, know how the decision makers think and make decisions. You're going to have people that are going to really understand how decisions should be made for the family's best interest. And ultimately, just specific to that, because it's a single private trust for that single family, it's really focused on what's best for that family. So it's really about making better
Sure.
decisions specifically for that family. So I think those are, again, they're related to those first couple that we discussed, but there are additional benefits of having your private trust company.
So this next question is a little bit of a peculiar one here, Homer. Will private trust companies, when a given family is working with them, do they ever entertain personal or really non-financial concerns and work with families in that way?
Yeah, on a limited basis, more, again, more related to the estate planning side, and
Mm-hmm.
really relating the family values and fostering communication amongst the generations. But it's not a single family office where they're bringing in travel resources, dog walking services, car purchasing services. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not a family office from that perspective. So again, it's really more focused specifically in that estate planning, planning, family succession issues when it comes to non-financial related issues.
So, Homer, you and I, we dive into the family dynamic a lot on this show, whether it was through the family constitution or a big conversation we had a while back was walking through just that process of preparing heirs for their inheritance. So, when it comes to private trust companies, is there any way that heirs can benefit from this process specifically?
Yeah, I think the biggest area that heirs can benefit from a family trust is really around the multi-generational engagement and education of those family members. So while they may not be directly involved in the trust company itself, they can benefit from the education coming out of the trust company. Trust companies, you're typically going to meet with the family on a regular basis, educate the family on what's going on within the investments and within the trust itself. And they can be a part of those trust meetings where again, they're going to be involved in the direct interaction with the trust company. So a lot of education, family harmony, engagement can come from having your private trust company with those professionals that are dealing with the family over multiple generations as well. So I think there's a lot of benefits that come from that.
And Homer, quick follow up to that: is that something that you typically wouldn't see from a corporate or a professional trust company? That level of work with an heir?
I would say it's not that family members couldn't be involved in trust meetings. I think the corporate trustees that I work with, they definitely try to involve the family. But again,
Mm-hmm.
due to some of those other issues where those people are changing regularly, or some of the frustrations with communication, whereas in a private trust company, you are going to have those professionals that know the family well and have been working with them for many years. I think you can just develop a little bit more of a focus on that education engagement because you're going to have consistency over time.
Sure, makes sense. So, Homer, when we look at families that have significant assets, in many of these situations, they prefer to have privacy. Not only, of course, to keep eyes off of their wealth, but also maybe internal family issues that they might be dealing with. So, let's talk about this issue of privacy with a private trust company. Do you find that this is a beneficial route to go if a family is particularly interested in establishing that level of privacy overall?
Yeah, I think there's definitely some areas where privacy is enhanced in a private trust company. I think that number one, there's typically just going to be fewer people involved compared to a corporate trustee situation, whether that's just fewer number of trustees rotating through, fewer people from the bank or whatever that corporate trust company might be involved with being just knowledgeable of that individual's overall situation. So there's definitely some control over just the amount overall information about the family being out there. And then also, I think another area that's an opportunity for additional privacy is, again, because of the nature of a private trust company, the reporting and regulatory rules are slightly different than a corporate trustee. And so in terms of providing and maintaining confidentiality, I think there's some additional opportunities there to have some enhancements.
Got it. So, Homer, the question that I feel like begs to be asked at this point is: you've just listed a lot of different benefits of working with a private trust company. So, what's the price tag? What's it look like financial? What's that financial commitment look like? Is it more expensive than going the route of a professional or corporate trust company? What does this conversation look like?
Uh, if it was as simple as all these benefits we've described, why wouldn't everybody just have their own private
Right.
trust company? But the
Right.
reality is there's definitely some costs involved, and you're typically going to be looking at, six figures, so a couple few $100,000 to get this thing set up deal with the regulatory environment. There's some ongoing costs and legal responsibilities as well. So, it's definitely something that is designed for, really wealthy families. And that's definitely going to be a stumbling block for many as they consider this option. So cost is definitely going to be a big factor as to whether this makes sense for a family or not.
Roger that. And Homer, kind of as a final question, really to bring our conversation to a head here is we've given them a lot of them being our audience. We've given you guys a lot of insight into this world. Where do they go? What would be the next step forward if they are interested in proceeding this route with a private trust company?
Yeah, I mean, kind of related to the last question. I mean, the first step is you got to look at the costs and see if this is something you want to pursue. But I know for wealthy families who would be considering this, cost isn't always the only factor involved. All these other benefits, privacy, a little bit more flexibility, having people that know the family super well being involved. There's other factors that need to be considered. But also, the larger of a trust structure that you might already have in place, the cost may not be higher. They actually could be lower depending on your current structure within your trust. So you have to do a comparison between the two. And then again, look at the cost as one of the decision-making factors and weigh it with all of those other components as well. So really an organized, streamlined private trust company could provide a lot of benefits, but we do got to weigh all the pros and cons.
So Homer, recently in any conversations that you've had with your clients, have you steered anybody this route? Do you find that you're having this conversation a lot? What's that look like on a day-to-day basis with you guys over at Convergent?
Yeah, I wouldn't say this is a day-to-day conversation just due to the limited nature of it. I would say just
Sure.
a few of our clients are interested based on their frustration levels with some of the trust companies and situations that they're in. And, another factor is when, it's not always just the frustrations that in dealing with a trust company. It could even be challenges of dealing with individuals that they may want to have as trustees, even family members being as trustees. The amount of work involved in being a trustee, the fiduciary responsibilities that can come with that role often scare many people away. So having a private trust company and having the structure and regulatory environment around it is again something I think that we're going to see a lot more wealthy families considering in the future.
Good to know. Good to know. Homer, any final thoughts really before we wrap up today, just in regards to private trust companies as a whole and just how they really position themselves against those, professional or corporate trust companies?
Yeah, I think for me, it's just, in wrapping up, this is just another component opportunity to address the bigger picture multi-generational wealth transfer situation that many of our clients are going through. And whether it's the family constitution and looking at different estate planning opportunities and tax planning opportunities over time, evaluating whether a private trust company is just another one of those advanced planning components that we need to be considering as a part of any stress test we're doing for our clients. So it's another tool that, we want to make sure that our clients and our families are aware of when they're evaluating, what steps they should be considering as they do their planning.
Sure. As if we've said it before, we'll say it again. So many tools in the toolbox when it comes to just, it's in the name of the show, advancing your wealth, figuring out what the best, course is to get you to that next level, get you to that next goal. Well, hey, look, anyway, Homer, really appreciate you taking your time out of your day for the live stream and for the show today. Looking forward to the next episode already, and I'm sure the topic will be announced here shortly.